In the time when Buddha Shakyamuni walked the earth, there was a region called Gandhara, renowned for its majestic mountains and fertile valleys winding between snow-capped peaks. It was a land of great natural beauty, where monasteries dotted the mountain slopes, and temple bells echoed each morning and evening, calling practitioners to their daily meditations. Yet, beneath this apparent tranquility, a terror plagued the hearts of the inhabitants. The powerful Naga king Apalala, who dwelled in the depths of a sacred lake in the mountains, had let himself be consumed by pride and anger. His mind, once dedicated to protecting the waters and the prosperity of the region, was now poisoned by the feeling that humans were not revering him as he deserved. As the seasons passed, Apalala began to express his discontent through devastating storms. Dark, coal-colored clouds gathered above Gandhara without warning, unleashing torrential rains that destroyed entire crops. Lightning slashed through the skies with uncontrollable fury, and the thunder of his wrath made the very mountains tremble. The fields that once yielded golden rice were now submerged. The paths connecting villages and monasteries became impassable, covered by landslides. Entire families lost their homes, and fear settled into every heart. The elders said it was a punishment from the gods, while the young lost hope for the future. Monks and practitioners tried to intervene, performing pujas and offerings to appease the Naga king's wrath. Local shamans conducted ancient rituals, and religious leaders fasted for days. But nothing seemed to touch Apalala's hardened heart. His determination to teach a lesson to the humans only grew with each attempt to placate him. Then the suffering of the people of Gandhara reached the compassionate ears of Buddha Shakyamuni. In his infinite wisdom, he understood that this situation required a special manifestation of the Dharma, one that could demonstrate that true power does not lie in the ability to cause destruction, but in the ability to transform and protect. On a particularly dark morning, when yet another storm was forming over Gandhara, something extraordinary happened. The air, already charged with the electricity of the impending storm, began to vibrate with a different energy. It was something the inhabitants had never felt before. A force that, while tremendously powerful, did not inspire fear but reverence. A single thunderclap, more potent than any ever heard in the region, split the skies. But this was no ordinary thunder from Apalala's fury. It was the sound of compassion manifesting in its most powerful form. At the epicenter of this sound emerged a majestic figure, Vajrapani, the Buddha of power. His appearance was simultaneously fearsome and magnificent. His dark blue body glowed like sapphire under the sun, emanating a light that dispersed the storm clouds. His 3 eyes burned with the fire of all-seeing wisdom, and in his right hand he held a golden Vajra, the diamond scepter symbolizing the indestructibility of the enlightened mind. The inhabitants of Gandhara, upon witnessing this manifestation, felt their hearts fill with renewed hope. Even those who were not Buddhists recognized that they were in the presence of something extraordinary. The very air seemed to carry the weight of the transformation about to take place. Vajrapani remained suspended in the sky for a few moments, his presence alone a teaching on the true nature of power. His eyes, despite his fierce appearance, conveyed boundless compassion. Every detail of his manifestation, from the serpents adorning his arms to the flames dancing in his halo, was a living symbol of the Dharma. This manifestation marked the beginning of a profound transformation, not only for Apalala, but for the entire region of Gandhara. It was the first act of a sacred drama that would show how power, when born of compassion and guided by wisdom, can transform even the most destructive situations into opportunities for awakening. With the majestic manifestation of Vajrapani still reverberating through the skies of Gandhara, the second act of this sacred story began. The Buddha of power, radiating golden light, directed his piercing gaze toward the depths of the sacred lake where Apalala's underwater palace lay. With a precise motion of his Vajra, the waters began to part, revealing a crystal staircase descending into the depths. The Naga king's palace was a vision of supernatural splendor. Built from precious stones and divine metals, its spiraling towers seemed to dance under the diffuse light of the water. Pearls the size of full moons adorned the gates, and massive gold chains held jade lanterns that never extinguished. It was a reflection of the power and vanity that had corrupted the heart of its ruler. As Vajrapani passed through the palace gates, the Naga servants trembled. Some hid behind coral pillars, while others immediately prostrated themselves, recognizing the presence of an enlightened being. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the tension of the imminent encounter between two very different forms of power. Apalala sat on his sapphire throne, his 5 serpent heads raised in a show of authority. Every scale on his body gleamed like polished emerald, and his eyes burned with an inner fire of pride and defiance. Upon seeing Vajrapani, he laughed, a sound that made the palace walls quake. "So, the Buddha sent his guardian to teach me a lesson?" Apalala mocked, his voice echoing through the underwater halls. "Don't you understand, messenger? I am the lord of these waters. This land and its people owe me respect and reverence. Your presence here is an unwanted intrusion." Vajrapani remained silent, his Vajra shining with a steady, serene light. This calm only fueled Apalala's irritation, and he rose to his full imposing height. The Naga King began to unleash his power, transforming the water around him into furious whirlpools. The golden chains holding the lanterns clinked violently, and the palace itself seemed to pulse with his mounting rage. "Do you want to see power?" Apalala roared. "I will show you the true meaning of power." With these words, he launched a terrifying display of his abilities. Water serpents materialized in the air, hissing menacingly. Razor-sharp ice crystals began to form, hovering around Vajrapani like a storm of blades. The Buddha of power remained still, his 3 eyes fixed on the Naga King. His silence was more eloquent than any words, his posture more powerful than any threat. When Apalala released his storm of ice, Vajrapani merely raised his Vajra. At the moment of impact, the ice blades transformed into lotus petals, falling gently to the palace floor. Infuriated by this demonstration, Apalala intensified his assault. He summoned lightning from the depths, created underwater tornadoes, and even shook the very foundations of his palace. Each new attack was more violent than the last, but each met the same serene response from Vajrapani. The confrontation reached its climax when, in a final act of desperation and anger, Apalala channeled all his power into one devastating attack. The entire palace trembled, and for a moment it seemed as if the lake's waters would boil. At that moment, Vajrapani finally acted. With a single motion of his Vajra, he created a field of golden energy that enveloped the entire hall. Within this sphere of light, time seemed to move differently. Every drop of water froze in place, every sound ceased, and a deep peace settled over the space. It was as if space itself was breathing, pulsing with an energy that was neither aggressive nor passive, but perfectly balanced. For the first time, Apalala felt his power meet something it could not overcome, not because it was stronger, but because it was fundamentally different. Vajrapani's power did not seek to dominate or destroy. It simply existed, unchanging like the very nature of the enlightened mind. In this moment of supernatural stillness, the Naga King's eyes met those of Vajrapani, and in them he saw not an adversary, but a mirror reflecting not just what he was, but what he could be. It was the beginning of a deeper understanding of the true nature of power, a lesson that had only just begun. The silence that filled the underwater palace was unlike any other. It was not the silence of fear, nor the silence of defeat, but rather the silence of transformation, the precious moment when a troubled mind begins to glimpse its own nature. Within the golden sphere created by Vajrapani's Vajra, Apalala stood motionless, his 5 serpentine heads lowered for the first time in centuries. It was then that Vajrapani began his true demonstration of power. His dark blue body began to emit a gentle light, spreading throughout the hall like sunrise over calm waters. Each ray of light carried memories, not only recent memories of destruction and anger, but ancient ones, from a time when Apalala was a devoted protector of the waters and lands of Gandhara. "Behold," Vajrapani said, his voice resonating not through the air, but directly within the mind of the Naga King. "The power you seek already exists within you, but not in the way you imagine." With a movement of his Vajra, the palace walls turned into living mirrors, each reflecting a different moment from Apalala's history. In one mirror, the young Naga could be seeing his sacred mission to protect the waters. In another, the first offerings from the people of Gandhara appeared, not out of fear, but out of genuine gratitude and respect. A third mirror showed how his rains once brought life and fertility to the fields. True power, Vajrapani continued, does not diminish when shared, it grows. To demonstrate this, his Vajra began to multiply its light, creating thousands of tiny golden points that floated through the hall. Each point of light was like a star, and together they formed constellations of compassion and wisdom. Apalala watched, captivated, as each point of light contained a different story. A farmer giving thanks for the rain that saved his crops, a child joyfully playing in the lake's waters, monks meditating peacefully by the shores of his domain. These were moments of genuine connection, of harmony between the Naga world and the human world. Your anger, Vajrapani explained, was born from a misunderstanding of respect's true nature. You sought to impose through fear what can only be nurtured through love. With these words, the Buddha of power did something unexpected. He completely dissolved his protective force field, leaving himself entirely vulnerable to Apalala's powers. This gesture of absolute trust touched something deep within the heart of the Naga king. For the first time, he understood that there was a force greater than any display of physical power, the force of conscious vulnerability, of fearless compassion. Vajrapani then raised his Vajra one last time, but not to defend or attack. Instead, the diamond scepter began to emit a sound, a profound mantra that reverberated with the very essence of compassionate power. It was the sound of transformation, the sound of healing, the sound of ancient wisdom transcending the duality of strength and weakness. The palace waters began to dance in harmony with this sacred sound. Every drop became a microscopic mirror, reflecting not only light, but the very nature of the enlightened mind. The entire palace transformed into a living mandala, where every jewel, every golden chain, every coral pillar pulsed to the rhythm of the mantra. In this moment, Apalala experienced his first true understanding of compassionate power. He saw how his storms, which he had thought were displays of strength, were in fact expressions of his own insecurity. He saw how his desire to be respected through fear had only isolated him further in his underwater palace. The power you seek, Vajrapani said, his voice now gentle as a summer breeze, is not something that needs to be conquered or imposed. It is something that already exists naturally when we align ourselves with the true nature of all things. To illustrate this, he caused every drop of water in the palace to glow with its own inner light. The spectacle was breathtaking. Thousands of points of light, each unique yet all connected, all part of the same cosmic dance. It was a living demonstration of how individual power only finds its true purpose when in harmony with the whole. Apalala watched in reverent silence. His 5 heads, once raised in defiance, now bowed in understanding. The power that Vajrapani demonstrated was not something that could be defeated or overcome, because it was not in opposition to anything. It was the power of awakening, the power of the fundamental truth that resides in the heart of all beings. In the underwater palace, still shimmering with the light of countless illuminated water droplets, Apalala experienced something he had never felt in all his centuries of existence: the complete dissolution of his pride. It was as if each scale on his serpentine body was shedding, not painfully, but like the petals of a flower opening to the morning sun. Slowly, the Naga king descended from his sapphire throne. His 5 heads, once crowned with precious jewels, now bowed in a natural and spontaneous prostration before Vajrapani. This wasn't a gesture of forced submission, but a deep acknowledgement of the true nature of the power he was witnessing. Great Vajrapani, Apalala spoke, his voice now stripped of any arrogance. For countless ages, I believed power meant having control over the elements, over the waters, over beings. Now I see that I was imprisoned by my own illusion. As he spoke, tears began to form in his eyes, a rare phenomenon for a Naga, and each tear, upon touching the palace floor, transformed into a small lotus flower. Moved by boundless compassion, Vajrapani descended to Apalala's level. His Vajra, still emitting a golden light, gently touched each of the Naga king's 5 heads. With each touch, a different layer of ignorance dissolved, revealing long-forgotten memories and understandings. The first head recalled his original vow as protector of the waters, a vow made not out of desire for power but from genuine love for beings. The second head relived the pure joy of bringing beneficial rains to the fields. The third experienced again the satisfaction of seeing children play happily in his waters. The fourth remembered moments of deep meditation in the depths of the lake. And finally, the fifth understood how all his power had been distorted by the poison of pride. Pride, Vajrapani explained, is like a dark cloud that obscures our true nature. When that cloud dissipates, we discover that the strength we sought was always present, simply masked by our own misconceptions. To illustrate this teaching, Vajrapani created a vision in the center of the hall. In it, Apalala could see himself as he truly was, not just a powerful Naga king, but a being with infinite potential to benefit others. The vision showed concentric waves of positive influence emanating from his compassionate actions, touching not only the inhabitants of Gandhara, but extending across time and space. Look, Vajrapani continued, at how your true power was never in the storms you created, but in your ability to nurture, protect, and sustain life. Pride leads us to confuse greatness with domination, when in truth, true greatness lies in service to others. As these words reverberated through the palace, something extraordinary began to happen to the environment itself. The gemstone walls, which had once merely displayed wealth and status, began to emit a gentle light that harmonized with the compassionate energy now radiating from Apalala. The entire palace was transforming, mirroring the inner change of its master. The gold chains that had once been mere ornaments began to resonate with a sound resembling mantras. The giant pearls at the gates pulsed with a light akin to the full moon reflected on calm waters. Every element of the palace, which had once served only the ego, was now aligned with a higher purpose. Deeply moved, Apalala began to understand that his transformation didn't mean losing his power. Rather, it meant discovering its true purpose. Every aspect of his Naga nature, every ability he possessed, could now be redirected for the benefit of all beings. Great Vajrapani, he said, I now understand that my pride was like a self-imposed prison. Every display of power I made only strengthened the bars of that prison. How could I have been so blind for so long? Vajrapani smiled, a smile that illuminated the entire hall. This understanding, he replied, is itself a demonstration of true power, the power to recognize our own mistakes and transform them into wisdom. There is no greater strength than the genuine humility born from understanding. And so, in the depths of the sacred lake, the ancient Naga king underwent a complete transformation. His pride, which had for so long been the source of destruction and suffering, now dissolved like snow under the sun of wisdom, revealing his true nature, pure, compassionate, and naturally powerful. With Apalala's transformation complete, a profound shift began to manifest, not only within the underwater palace, but throughout the entire region of Gandhara. The waters of the sacred lake, which for so long had been turbulent and menacing, now emanated a tangible peace felt by all who approached its shores. Having fulfilled his purpose, Vajrapani prepared to depart. Before leaving, he offered the transformed Naga king one final teaching. The power you discovered today, he said, is not something that can be lost or stolen, for it is not external to you. It is the very nature of your awakened mind. Now, use it wisely. With these words, the Buddha of power touched the lake once more with his Vajra. The waters shimmered with a golden glow, spreading in all directions like the rays of the rising sun, a seal of blessing, marking the transformation that had occurred in its depths. In the days that followed, the people of Gandhara witnessed an extraordinary change in their land. The rains, once destructive and unpredictable, became regular and nourishing. Fields that had been devastated by floods now flourished with an unprecedented abundance. The very air seemed lighter, filled with a sense of renewal and hope. Apalala emerged from his underwater palace, no longer as a feared tyrant, but as a respected and beloved guardian. His presence, once associated with fear and destruction, now brought comfort and protection. The 5 heads that once displayed expressions of wrath now embodied the 5 wisdoms of the Buddhas. The first head emanated the wisdom of Dharmadhatu, understanding the interconnectedness of all phenomena. The second manifested mirror-like wisdom, reflecting the true nature of all things. The third radiated the wisdom of equality, recognizing the Buddha nature in all beings. The fourth displayed discriminating wisdom, precisely discerning the needs of each being. The fifth expressed all-accomplishing wisdom, transforming every action for the benefit of others. The underwater palace, once a monument to ego, became a place of practice and transformation. Advanced practitioners occasionally received visions of its crystalline halls, where every jewel and golden chain now served as an aid to contemplate the ultimate nature of reality. Stories of Apalala's transformation began to spread throughout the region. Travelers passing through Gandhara carried with them not only tales of its fertility and prosperity, but also profound teachings on the true nature of power that they had witnessed. Monks in local monasteries started incorporating the story into their teachings, using it to illustrate how even the most destructive emotions can be transformed into wisdom when met with enlightened compassion. The very image of Vajrapani, with his golden Vajra and fierce yet compassionate expression, became a living reminder that true power does not reside in the ability to destroy, but in the capacity to transform. On full moon nights, when the sacred lake's waters shone with a silver reflection, it was said that Apalala would briefly emerge at the surface. In those moments, those with pure karma could hear the gentle sound of mantras chanted from the depths, a reminder to all that true strength is never lost. It only transforms and refines. Years passed, and the story of Apalala's transformation through his encounter with Vajrapani became an integral part of Gandhara's Buddhist tradition. Each new generation learned that the highest power is not that which subdues or dominates, but that which liberates and transforms. The legacy of this story endured through the centuries, passed down from master to disciple, from parent to child, from heart to heart. It became a living testament to the Buddha's fundamental teaching that all negative qualities, when met with wisdom and compassion, can be transformed into their enlightened counterparts. And so, even to this day, whenever the waters of Gandhara's sacred lake reflect the night sky, it is said that one can feel the presence of two forces in perfect harmony: the protective power of Vajrapani and the transformed wisdom of Apalala, eternally reminding us that true power is not something we conquer, but something we discover when our hearts open to the truth of the Dharma.